The Vickers Wellington was a British twin-engine bomber used mainly in the early years of World War II. What really set it apart was its geodesic internal structure, a lattice of metal strips that made the aircraft incredibly strong for its weight. Crews often returned with massive battle damage that would have destroyed other bombers. While it was eventually replaced by larger and longer-range bombers like the Lancaster, the Wellington played a critical role early on and proved that clever engineering could save lives in combat. The MiG-21 is the most produced supersonic jet fighter in history, which is impressive considering how simple it looks. Designed by the Soviet Union during the Cold War, it was cheap, fast, and easy to maintain, making it perfect for mass production and export. Dozens of countries flew it, and it saw combat on nearly every continent. While basic by modern standards, its speed and climb rate made it dangerous in the right hands, and many are still flying today. The Hellcat was the US Navy's answer to early Japanese air superiority in World War II. Instead of being fancy, it was designed to be tough, reliable, and easy for average pilots to fly from aircraft carriers. That decision paid off massively. The Hellcat dominated the skies over the Pacific and achieved an enormous kill ratio against Japanese aircraft. It could take serious damage and still get its pilot home, which made it deeply trusted by the crews who flew it. The Boeing 737 is probably the airplane most people have flown on, even if they didn't know it. It's a short to medium-range airliner designed to fly frequently, efficiently, and cheaply. Airlines love it because it can operate from smaller airports and handle quick turnarounds. First introduced in the 1960s, it has evolved through many generations and remains a core part of airline fleets worldwide, flying thousands of routes every single day. The Airbus A320 changed airline flying forever. It was the first commercial jet to use full fly-by-wire controls, replacing mechanical connections with computers. That allowed safer flight protections and a more modern cockpit. The A320 family is efficient, quiet, and extremely popular with airlines around the world. Today, it slightly leads the 737 in total production and continues to grow, making it one of the most important commercial aircraft designs ever created. The Corsair is instantly recognizable thanks to its bent, gull-shaped wings. Built for the US Navy and Marine Corps, it was one of the most powerful propeller fighters of World War II. Early carrier landings were tricky, but once sorted, the Corsair became deadly in air combat and devastating in ground attack. It stayed in service well after World War II, including during the Korean War, proving just how capable and durable the design really was. The B-17 earned its nickname honestly. Bristling with defensive machine guns, it was designed to fly deep into enemy territory during daylight bombing missions over Europe. What made it legendary was its toughness. Countless photos show B-17s returning home with missing chunks of wings or fuselage. It became a symbol of American air power and the bravery of bomber crews who faced extreme danger on every mission. The P-40 wasn't the best fighter of World War II, but it was one of the most important early on. Rugged and reliable, it served wherever the Allies needed aircraft quickly. It became famous with the Flying Tigers in China, wearing the iconic shark mouth paint scheme. While it struggled at high altitude, it performed well at low and medium levels and held the line until more advanced fighters arrived. The CG-4 was a silent workhorse of World War II. It had no engine and was towed into the air, then released to land troops, vehicles, and supplies behind enemy lines. Built mostly from wood and fabric, it was cheap and meant to be disposable. Thousands were used during major operations like D-Day and Operation Market Garden. It wasn't glamorous, but it played a vital role in airborne warfare. The Hurricane often lives in the shadow of the Spitfire, but it was just as important, if not more so. During the Battle of Britain, Hurricanes actually shot down more enemy aircraft. They were tough, stable gun platforms and easy to repair under combat conditions. Pilots trusted them, and ground crews loved how quickly they could be patched up and sent back into the fight. The Ju-88 was one of the most versatile aircraft of World War II. Originally designed as a bomber, it was adapted into a night fighter, reconnaissance aircraft, and even a torpedo bomber. This flexibility made it incredibly valuable to the Luftwaffe. While Germany struggled with resources later in the war, the Ju-88 remained in production because it could do so many jobs reasonably well. The T-6 Texan trained an entire generation of fighter pilots. Before flying combat aircraft, Allied pilots learned gunnery, formation flying and aerobatics in the T-6. It handled like a fighter, but was forgiving enough for students. Even today, many are still flying in air shows, reminding people that this trainer quietly shaped the outcome of air combat in World War II. The Mustang is often called the best fighter of World War II, and it earned that reputation. With excellent speed, agility and long range, it could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back. That changed the air war over Europe. Sleek, fast and deadly, the P-51 remains one of the most admired aircraft ever built. The P-47 was massive for a fighter, but that size made it incredibly tough. Pilots joked that if you got hit, the plane would survive even if the enemy didn't. It excelled at ground attack, destroying trains, trucks and tanks across Europe. While not as graceful as the Mustang, it was a true battlefield brute. The DC-3 transformed air travel before World War II and then became the C-47 military transport during the war. It carried troops, cargo, paratroopers and wounded soldiers everywhere. Reliable and easy to maintain, it flew in every theater of war. Decades later, many DC-3s are still flying, which says everything about the design. The Yak-9 was a Soviet fighter built with one goal: produce lots of capable aircraft quickly. It was lightweight, simple and effective, perfectly suited to the harsh realities of the Eastern Front. It wasn't flashy, but it did its job well and in huge numbers, making it one of the Soviet Union's most important wartime fighters. The MiG-15 shocked the world during the Korean War. Suddenly, Western pilots faced a fast, high-altitude jet with heavy cannon armament. Built in massive numbers across the Soviet Union and its allies, it became the standard jet fighter of the Eastern Bloc and marked the real beginning of the jet age in combat. The An-2 is the largest single-engine biplane ever produced, and somehow it still works. Designed to operate from rough fields with minimal support, it can take off and land almost anywhere. Used for cargo, passengers, agriculture and parachuting, it's still flying today in remote regions, decades after its introduction. The B-24 holds the record as the most produced heavy bomber in history. It had longer range and larger bomb loads than the B-17, but was harder to fly. Assembly line production allowed factories to turn them out in massive numbers, making it a backbone of Allied bombing efforts across the globe. Introduced in the late 1940s, the Bonanza is still in production today, which is remarkable. Known for speed, comfort and efficiency, it became a favorite among private owners and business pilots. Its long lifespan and continuous refinement make it one of the most successful civilian aircraft designs ever. The FW-190 was a shock to Allied pilots when it first appeared. Fast, heavily armed and rugged, it outperformed many Allied fighters at low and medium altitudes. Easy to maintain and adaptable, it became one of Germany's most important fighters during the war. The J-3 Cub made flying accessible to ordinary people. Slow, simple and forgiving, it taught countless pilots how to fly and became a symbol of grassroots aviation. Even today, seeing one buzzing along feels like aviation in its purest form. The Spitfire combined beauty and performance in a way few aircraft ever have. Its elliptical wings gave it excellent agility, and constant upgrades kept it competitive throughout World War II. It became a symbol of British determination and is still one of the most beloved aircrafts. The Cessna 182 is a step up from basic trainers, offering more power and payload. It's widely used for travel, bush flying and utility work. Reliable and versatile, it's especially popular in remote regions, where toughness matters more than speed. The P-02 was incredibly simple, but that was its strength. Used for training, liaison and night harassment bombing, it was slow enough to be hard to shoot down. It served for decades and became legendary in its own strange way. These two-seat trainers taught millions of people how to fly. Cheap to operate, forgiving of mistakes, and nearly indestructible, they dominated flight schools worldwide for decades and remain iconic training aircraft. The PA-28 family is everywhere in general aviation. Used for training and personal travel, it's stable, predictable, and practical. For many pilots, this is the airplane they learned in and later owned themselves. The most produced fighter aircraft in history, it fought in every major theater of World War II and evolved constantly. Fast, powerful and unforgiving, it defined German fighter design throughout the war. Known as the flying tank, The IL-2 was built to survive intense ground fire while attacking enemy troops and armor. Heavily armored and produced in enormous numbers, it was absolutely vital to Soviet success on the Eastern Front. The most produced aircraft of all time. Simple, reliable and forgiving, the Cessna 172 has trained more pilots than any other airplane. From flight schools to private owners, it's everywhere and still going strong today.